We begin with breaking news. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says his country is on the path to an agreement with the United States. Both sides have been holding negotiations over Iran's nuclear program in Geneva against the backdrop of increased military pressure. Araghchi and the US envoy Steve Witkoff attended the talks that were mediated by Oman. Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened military action, first over Iran's deadly crackdown on anti-government protests, and then more recently over its nuclear program. Well, we have three correspondents standing by for us. Kimberly Halkett is at the White House. Tohid Asadi is in Tehran. But first, let's go to Osama bin Javaid, who is in Geneva for us. So, Osama, this news just coming to us in the last few minutes, towards the end of the hour, these lines from the Iranian Foreign Minister about how those talks went. What more have we learned?
Well, there's so much at stake here, and it appears that after those brief 2-hour talks, which were indirect, held under the Omani leadership, the Omani foreign minister, mediating between these two sides, Abbas Araghchi is hopeful that there is room to move forward. These talks have moved towards a place where they can actually start drafting something, and we're just getting these lines as you speak. According to Araghchi, he says that we now have a clearer picture of what needs to be done and what steps should be taken moving forward. Of course, both sides still hold positions that will take time to bring closer together. However, we now at least have a set of guiding principles and a clearer path along which we can proceed. And you see that is going to be witnessed as a positive note after these meetings, because they were so poles apart on this, because Iran did not want to include any of its missile program in the picture. It did not want to mention any of its regional proxies in the picture, and solely wanted to focus on the nuclear issue. That is why you saw the Iranian foreign minister meeting Rafael Grossi, the International Atomic Energy Agency chief, and then he's also reiterating that those technical level discussions have been fruitful. Now, what does this actually mean? Will this mean that the US will reduce some of its military hardware in the region? Will this mean that Iran is ready to go for zero enrichment and moving fissile materials? Well, that is all in the detail that will become clearer. For now, what we can say for sure is that there is going to be another round of talks, the date and time and the actual parameters of which are going to be declared later by the Iranian and the American sides.
Okay, Osama, good to speak to you. Just stand by for a moment, because we do now have that soundbite from Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. He was just speaking very shortly after those talks concluded in a positive tone, as you were describing. This is what he had to say.
I can say that compared to the last round, we have had very serious discussions, and there was a constructive atmosphere where we exchanged our point of views. Those ideas were discussed, and we came to some agreements on some main principles, and based on those principles, we will eventually draft a document. This does not mean we can reach an agreement quickly, but at least the path has started. We are hopeful we can achieve this. But when we reach the stage of drafting a document, naturally, the process is bound to slow down.
Okay, let's go to our correspondent, Tohid Asadi, who is in Tehran. So going by that soundbite that we got there from Abbas Araghchi, positive noises coming from the Iranian team. What is your sense where you are in Tehran, given the various developments that we had earlier today?
Well, indeed, based on what he heard from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, we can say that the tone is, as you mentioned, is positive, but that doesn't mean at all that we are dealing with an easy situation. And we were just hearing the same positive tone when we were in the middle of the negotiations last year between Iran and the United States in Moscow and in Rome. But this is the very unexpected nature of the ties between Iran and the United States that should be taken into consideration when we're talking about that. Iran is going there with, as Iranian Foreign Minister says, with new ideas, but how these ideas are going to be translated into action remains to be seen. There are so many controversial issues in between. When it comes to the nuclear dossier of the country, Tehran says it's not going to accept any zero enrichment offer, and also they are saying that they would like to have the talks concentrated upon the nuclear program of the country rather than anything else, and they want the knots to be untangled one by one. Meanwhile, the American side is coming out with a package of different demands, and of course there is this cloud of mistrust that surrounds the atmosphere of the talks between the two sides. We have to, on that regard, also keep in mind that the two countries were in the middle of a negotiation when a campaign of strikes by Americans and Israelis started to target the Iranian nuclear facilities, top nuclear scientists, military headquarters and commanders, and of course the civilian infrastructures. The mood in Tehran is, I can say, a mixture of different sentiments following this complicated context in which they are located, highlighted by frustration, uncertainty, and of course hope to see whether or not diplomacy could settle down the issues in between.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Tohid Asadi there for us in Tehran with the latest. Well, before the negotiations began, Donald Trump, the US president, said that he'd been involved in the talks with Iran remotely and indirectly.
I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. I mean, it's been typically Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable.
Well, let's cross over now to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. So those comments, Kimberly, from Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi just a little earlier, saying his country is on the path to an agreement with the United States. How's that going to be going down in the US?
Well, what I can tell you is that the United States is very clear on what it's looking for. And so any deal will have to have certain things inside it in order for it to be saleable in Washington. The U.S. president said that on Air Force One, not only what you played there, but also that Iran doesn't want the consequences of making a deal or not making a deal. What he means by that is that the United States is looking for some core demands. Number one, that there is a complete halting of uranium enrichment and also a curbing of Iran's ballistic missile program and support for regional proxies. But when the United States says it wants a halting of enrichment, what it means is that it not only wants to see it stop, but it wants to have verification by the IAEA, and that these are robust inspections that will take place. And so this is something that is somewhat challenging, the United States recognizes, but again, is pushing for that. What we also know, though, is that if there is this compliance on the part of Iran, what it can be promised and what the United States is dangling is sanctions relief that would bring welcome for its economy.
Many thanks for that. Kimberly Halkett there for us in Washington.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.